Welcome, everybody, to episode number 8 of the Scholastic Sit Down podcast. Glad to have you with us. My name's Dylan Ward. That's Luke Jordan. We're both sitting down and ready to talk about the Scholastic Hockey League. Luke, how was your week?
Pretty good so far. Not too busy, thankfully. Going up to the University of Illinois this weekend, catch a football game, catching a Illini hockey game, probably some ACHA D1. But today we're running off of pretty minimal sleep. It was a rough 18 innings last night that me and you both watched and had morning class, so it was a blast. It was a lot of fun. Not
Yeah, that was quite some game. We had quite some games in the SHL as well. And Luke, let's get right into it. We had two SHL Game of the Week broadcasts. We'll talk about those later in the week. But let's start with Wednesday, October 22nd. Both Glenbrook teams were at home. Glenbrook South hosted York. Glenbrook North hosted Lake Forest. And both of those Glenbrook teams lost by 2 goals. The Dukes shut out the Titans by a final score of 2-0. And the Scouts beat GBN by a final score of 3-1. Luke, what do you have to say about those games?
We're getting a chance to talk to Blake Hoffer as our special guest on this episode. Not to spoil things early. I mean, I'm sure you see it in the title, but I think Jim Philbin over the course of the week was talking about how this is a game that he wanted to bounce back from. He did not like the way his team played at all, and it goes to show only 15 shots on goal. On the other end, for Lake Forest, Steve Soror, the Lake Forest head coach, has needed guys to step up. Tommy Esplin's been out with an ankle sprain. He's going to miss at least the next week or so, and he is the playmaker. You need guys to step up, and they got that. Carter Savage with a hat trick, a goal in each period to end up beating the Spartans. Two low scoring feats to start the week, Dylan.
Yeah, well, another spoiler, but I picked Lake Forest GBN as the highest scoring game last week. So obviously I did
Yeesh.
not win that one this week. We'll see how those results shake out as we move along. But up next on Thursday night, just one game. It was in Buffalo Grove as Stevenson hosted Carmel. The Patriots come away with a 4-2 victory, ending a long losing streak on their end and getting their second win of the SHL season.
Yeah, I mean, this is a game that we talked about. Two teams that are projected at the cut line for the playoffs right now. You got to win these types of games. These are going to be a huge 2 points along the way. And Stevenson gets that. They get out in front early. They jump out to a 2-0 lead. And from there, although Carmel strikes on the power play, eventually makes things close at the end of the third period, it's not enough. Good fight from the Pats. Good win for Ethan Weiner, who was impressive between the pipes, stopping 23 out of 25. And I mean, down the road, you never know what those 2 points could lead to for the Patriots.
You make a really good point there. Moving along to Friday, just one game. It was our very first SHL game of the week broadcast. It was Nutria Green on the road against the York Dukes and Luke. One heck of a game between these two sides. York came out to a 3-1 lead after one period. Nutria clawed their way back, tying it 3-3 in the third. And then the eventual shootout winner for the Dukes was scored by Ethan Maurer in the third round. And is it really that surprising? SHL Network Game of the Week always seems to put on a show, and this one did not disappoint.
Not even close to disappointing, Dylan. This was insane. I mean, for an opening game, this is one of my most favorite SHL games of the week I've ever been a part of. It was a great atmosphere fighting for a great cause in cancer awareness down in Addison. And on top of that, these Dukes were fighting for their lives. They were fighting like their lives were on the line. This was a great performance from York. I really liked their forecheck. I mean, they have been taught clearly by Boeing in the past, Pulikitis now, that forecheck creates opportunities. And we saw that because on two of the three goals from the Dukes, as I can recall, they were from a good forecheck. They turn it over and just out of thin air, they pass one in the slot and score. I mean, sometimes it's that part, that aspect of the game that can get you by such a great program and team in the Trevians, and that's what they did here. And lastly, before I ramble on for 20 minutes about how great of a game this was, Levi Brown, this is just his second game. He played Wednesday against Glenbrook South, had the shutout, then comes into this one, plays incredible, stops 34 out of 37, big time in the shootout. Something about these, how do I say this? These Charlie Traps that are coming our way. Goalies that start to really stand out as a freshman. Trap, Preston from GBS last year. This year, Levi Brown has come in late, but boy, he has come in and made impact for York, making them arguably one of the top teams to look out for in the league after his appearance.
You could even circle back to Michael Raderman. I know he got a couple of appearances his freshman year and then became really their main guy as a sophomore. But you make a good point there, Luke. Moving on to Saturday, we had two games. Let's start with the second SHL game of the week. Opening weekend, we had a back-to-back days with games, and that was Glenbrook South at home against Lake Forest. And Luke, while this one didn't go to overtime like the previous one did, it was an exciting and tight one goal game. GBS wins 2-1. The game winner ends up being scored in the second period. You were there. What'd you like from that one?
Yeah, had the pleasure of being there and had the pleasure of watching two really good goalies butt heads. Thomas Preston stopping 15 out of 16. Of course, Logan Marsh, as he always has been all season, stopping a good amount of shots, 35 out of 37. He kept them in this game. I mean, Lake Forest looked pretty outplayed from the start. Glenbrook South, and we'll get to talk about it with Blake Hoffer. This is a bounce back game. They did not play good early in the week. It's tough in the SHL to have consecutive bad games because all of these teams are so good at bouncing back, and GBS especially put on the pressure. I mean, if Marsh is not in goal, this game could have been 4-1, 5-1, something along those lines. He kept it close, kept his team running until the end. But in the end, after Lake Forest opened up with the lead, Owen Cosmeter and Asher Vanderplug. Of course, we Asher Vanderplug coming back from a practically season-ending injury his junior year. He has looked really good on the offensive front, switching from defense. He gets the assist from Ryan Mulvey, and that is the GWG. No goals in the third period, and that's exactly what Glenbrook South needed.
No goals in the third period in the other game on Saturday either, but another close one. Loyola wins it 3-2 over St. Ignatius with a flurry of shots by both sides, 38-35, the final count in favor of Loyola. Charlie Trapp makes 33 saves in the victory for the Ramblers, and just another great game on a Saturday night.
Yeah, how about these goalie matchups, Dylan? This time we've got Charlie Trapp versus Nick Nocera. Trapp does a great job stopping 33 out of 35. Nocera stops 35 out of 38. I mean, the goalie performances this week made it really tough for us to pick a highest scoring game because so many of these games ended up 5 goals or under, just like this one. And Loyola, once again, it's these teams getting out front. We haven't seen too much of teams getting 2 goal leads. I mean, really, other than York, they've had a couple of stumbles, but they bounce back as of recent. But most teams, when they go up 2, they're usually able to hang on. We've got some great defenses this year, and that's what happens. Loyola jumps out in front. Now, St. Ignatius does come back and tie it, but that's obviously a great job by Loyola to keep their mentality in the end. Nicholas Perino? Am I saying that right? We
I
don't got
believe
pronunciations for the
Perino.
pod. Perino? All
Yeah.
right. Well, we'll definitely get that right when we do our first broadcast, which is
Oh yeah.
Thursday, by the way. So don't
Looking
worry.
forward to
But
that personally.
yeah, big win for the Ramblers, Dylan.
And then that takes us to the final day of the week, Sunday, October 26th. We had three games in the SHL. We haven't had a four-game day yet, but I took a little sneak peek down the schedule. We're going to have a couple of those soon. But it started with New Trier at home at North Shore Ice Arena taking on Carmel Catholic. In a game they led 1-0 late, well, not late, but midway through the second period. It looked like it was going to be close, but then New Trier said, no, sorry, have a nice day. 8-1 the final score as they take down Carmel Catholic. Also on Sunday, it was Lake Forest at home against GBS in the second half of what was their home and home weekend series. Lake Forest came back from a 2-0 deficit in that one and scored the OT winner by Michael Catalano, just shy of a power play goal. It was 4-on-4 in overtime. And then finally, down in Chicago, St. Ignatius winning 6-3 over GBN at Fifth Third Arena. Luke, what stands out to you from this Sunday slate?
Well, with the top and bottom games between Carmel and New Trier, Glenbrook North, St. Ignatius, depth, really, Dylan. I mean, the St. Ignatius game, they put on 6 goals from 6 different scores. The New Trier game, they put on 8 goals from 8 different scores. These are two programs that are just profoundly deep. And St. Ignatius is really, personally, not one I expected to be as deep as they were. They lost Austin Haynes, they lost Jackson Steinloff, and still they've just got guys capitalizing everywhere. Great returners and Charlie Jeremy, Brady Vasick, Alex Cook, and then how about Solly Helfrich, who they pulled in from AAA to find the opening goal in that game. And then for New Trier, I mean, you thought 6 from 6 different was impressive. 8 from 8 is not something you're going to see often, but something that New Trier will do when called upon them. And then between Lake Forest and Glenbrook South, it's a home and home between these two teams. Lake Forest, who has over the last 2 years just been a great team playing at Alumni Memorial Fieldhouse. They proved that after getting simply outplayed the night before by the same team. They welcome Glenbrook South in up north. And without Tommy Esplin, as I mentioned, guys are going to need to step up. And Michael Catalano found a way to step up even more, Dylan, scoring the opener for the Scouts and eventually the overtime winner with 1:14 to go. Great Sunday we had.
Yeah, good to have Sam Schwartz on the broadcast for that one. He's a guest we
Oh,
had
yeah.
earlier this season, and he was calling that game with me. He was making his broadcasting debut, and I thought he did a pretty good job on the South Hockey Network. So,
The clip he sent sounded pretty professional. I'll give him that.
yeah, no doubt about that. Well, that'll be it for this last week and take us into our next segment. So, Luke, of course, this is where I turn it over to you as you take us through the world of high school hockey besides the SHL. Lots of other leagues, of course, in the state to go over. And what's new?
All right, well, let's start with our previous game of the week, the outside the SHL game of the week that I always like to capture. Prep and BGHW met for the second time this season. The previous one went into overtime, BGHW winning. And this one, I'm still going to give myself the nod on a good game of the week. It was a 2 goal difference, but that includes an empty netter. We've picked some pretty close ones this year. This one remains more of the same and what is a dominant outshooting from Prep over the BGHW Stampede. They outshoot them 38-17. And in the end, that resulted in Prep with 3 unanswered goals. It was BGHW who actually opened things up. Jackson Ronkonski with his 5th of the North Central season. Then Kieran Fitzpatrick, Matthew Kowal, and Peyton Sobecki eventually with the empty netter. Prep evens up this rivalry series in the second game after winning this one 3-1 on the road on the night of Friday at 8 p.m. at West Meadows. Now we go over to the North Central Division, where Prep now has taken the lead. They played 9 games. They're 7-1-1, including an overtime loss, 15 points at the top of the division. Ice Cats are in second, Deerfield in third, New Trier Blue in fourth, BGHW in fifth, and Evanston, I mean, really, the top 7 teams are win heavy. Evanston sixth, 4-1-1. Chicago North is seventh, 4-2-1. So they are not far behind as well. And mind you, that's actually 4-2-1, as in 4 wins, 2 losses, 1 tie. It goes wins, losses, ties, overtime losses in the North Central. Something pretty new they've had. I believe this is their second year of having that. As let's move over to Illinois West. I mean, well, only time will tell. The Warriors eventually climb their way back at the top in points with 20, but watch out. With 3 games in hand, the Hinsdale Central Red Devils. I mean, this is my favorite story of the year so far, Dylan. They are 7-0-0 after a subpar season last year. They've outscored their opponents 26-14, and they have won 2 of those games in overtime or shootout. They've been in some fun ones this year, and they're trying to keep the undefeated train rolling. As Maine's in third, Glenbard in fourth, Plainfield in fifth. You had something, Dylan? Sorry.
Just saying, that's an impressive record for Hinsdale Central.
Unbelievable bounce back. They currently have the best points percentage, just not the most points, but watch out for them to potentially overtake the pedestal of Warriors, the defending combined division champions of state. Chicago Catholic League. Not a lot has happened the last 2 weeks now. St. Ignatius will be back in action Monday against Brother Rice. They are still at the top 6-0-0. Fenwick 4-2, Brother Rice 3-2, Notre Dame 3-3. Providence Catholic closing out the top 5, 3-4, pardon me. Lastly, going over to the Metro Girls High School League, it's a lot of more of the same as well. The top 3 consisting of still York out in front among the rest with a game in hand on the New Trier Trevians girls team in second with 9 points, Fenwick in third, Naper Valley in fourth, Glenbrook in fifth. Now, there were not a crazy amount of popcorn games of the week. There's definitely some good ones, but it's tough because there's not one that stands out amongst the others. And I wanted to look over to the North Central Division, where Deerfield, as we mentioned, a hot start to the season, as they usually have been, will be on the road against Evanston, tonight, the day that you're seeing it, Wednesday, 8 p.m. in Evanston at the Robert Crown Community Ice Center, ranked number one. Being a former player in this division, knowing there's a bit of a rivalry between these two and two teams with really impressive point percentages so far. You got Deerfield, who is 722, that's tied for fourth, and Evanston with a point percentage of 750, tied for second. Just two teams that are still catching up in the games played race. So that will be my game of the week. Once again, Deerfield and Evanston. Hopefully, it's another good one. I feel like we've been pretty good with that. But with that, Dylan, that caps off my outside the SHL recap. Let's look at the SHL this week.
All right, I like that game of the week. It should be a good one. We'll see what happens. And there he is, our special guest for this week's episode of the Scholastic Sit Down, Glenbrook South's Blake Hoffer. Blake, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you guys for having me.
Of course. I want to start with this. Last year you were the SHL MVP, you were the points champion as well. How did it feel to receive those honors as a junior and knowing that you still have an entire season ahead?
Um, it was pretty cool. I think, especially only being my second year on the team, I think it was my sophomore year is pretty cool to grow behind Zach Freemuth, who also got most of those awards, and I feel like it was cool, but it also didn't come from just me. I think everyone on my line and on my team played a key role in that, and I wouldn't have done that without any of them.
I got two questions here. First off, just I think that is the coolest backdrop that we have seen out of any guest we've had in this podcast. I mean, you don't gotta take 10 minutes, but I mean, give a little bit of the background on how that all came together.
Yeah, so this is my dad's office. He's grown up around the game of baseball. He's a huge Chicago sports fan. He's been Cubs season ticket holder for probably I think over 40 years. And yeah, his tickets got passed down to him, and he growing up, he always went to the minor league spring training games and stuff like that. And some of these balls are pretty valuable. I know there's a Bryce Harper rookie one some here, but yeah, he goes around and collect them. He used to be a writer for Baseball America, so I kind of grew up around baseball growing up. But yeah,
Yeah, and actually, segueing right into that, you're of course a great dual sport athlete. You're a Division One commit for baseball. Do you feel like there's any versatilities between the two sports to whereas you can carry the, talents from one sport to another and be great in both because you are?
yeah, I feel like hockey really helps me with baseball actually, and some people may be like, "Oh, it doesn't really help you," but the biggest part in pitching is using your legs, and I feel like some people think it's like how strong your arms are, but it's really the opposite. It's based on how much you can use your legs and your lower body to help generate that force. And just skating and all of that, it really takes a toll on your legs and it makes them a lot stronger, quicker, and faster. So, yeah, most of the time when I come back from a long summer of baseball and I get going to hockey, my legs are always pretty out of shape and stuff. So it's good conditioning, not only for like endurance and stuff, but it helps make legs stronger and helps me throw harder on the mound.
While we're on the topic, real quick, I gotta ask, did you stay up for the 18 inning game last
Oh my
night in the
gosh.
World Series?
I've went to bed in the 11th. I know my dad was trying to stay up, and I don't think he ended up doing it. But yeah, I woke up this morning and asked my Alexa right away, and I saw that, and I was like, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
incredible stuff. But you mentioned it earlier. This is your third year playing on the varsity team. You started as a sophomore, now you're a senior. Obviously, some players around you and on other teams have stayed the same, but have you noticed any kind of difference as the years have gone on in the whether it's the level of skill or just the play style in the SHL?
Um, I would say my sophomore year is definitely more physical. And I think as the years gone on, it's kind of became more of a strategic game. My sophomore year, I didn't really, I mean, we did it, but we didn't really pay that much attention to matching lines and kind of focusing in on a couple guys on the other team. But I feel like this year in the past couple of years has just been like trying to find the right matchup versus the right line versus the right player. And I feel like that's is what's going to win you games. And I feel like teams that do that against us well, they exploit you and they figure out how to get you off your game. And I mean, I can think of York did it pretty well to us last week, and we had like 15 shots. We had no offense against them. So I think it's really about matchup, and I think it doesn't really matter how skilled the team is. Any team can win in any aspect of this league, and I feel like that's kind of underlooked. That like I don't care if you're last or first place, they're gonna come in, and if they play you well and they match you up well, they're gonna win.
Yeah, well said. I want to go back to that York game real quick. And I actually got to talk to Jim Philbin before your guys' SHL game of the week on Saturday, which, as he would probably tell you, two very different performances. He did not like the way you guys played on Wednesday. He said you guys went through a pretty gruesome practice and then turned around into Saturday and had more than double the shots you had during the week. What about Jim Philbin makes him so special to help you guys recuperate from a bad game and then turn it into that eventual SHL game of the week victory over the weekend?
Yeah, so against York, we had just some bad plays, just some lazy plays, and we over the 60 minutes of prior 70 minutes of practice, we went around every single bad play and he took a video of it and we replayed the bad play and then we skated down and back. So, um, it sucked in the moment, but I think we all needed a little reality check and I think it really did tough us up. And I think, yeah, Lake Forest, the game on Saturday was definitely one of our better games. I mean, we put up close to, I think, 45
Yeah,
shots.
I think it was at least high 30s, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's something in that range.
Yeah, but I mean I remember looking back going to intermission, we had like 20 to their 6 or something, and I think that is going to win you games, and I think if we could do that for the rest of the season, we would be pretty successful, but it's hard to do, but Lake Forest is a good team and they kind of countered us back on Sunday, but yeah, I think that mentality that we went on to Saturday is what we're going to need to keep on going.
Yeah, and real quick on that practice, when we were talking to Coach Philbin before the game, I said, "Let me guess, no pucks," and he was pretty straight up, "Yeah, no pucks at all." So that will, as a hockey player, that will tell you all the practice, whether it's good or bad, fun or not, and yeah, clearly worked. Dylan, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask you in about a month's time, you'll be playing Glenbrook North at Centennial Ice Rink on Thanksgiving Eve. It'll be your last final edition of this game as a player, but it's always such a special tradition between those two programs. And here at the SHL Network, it's always one we make sure we're on the broadcast for. Playing in two of those games already with, that, level of fans and media attention and what have you. What's kind of your takeaways from that game, and how does it differ from just any old regular season game?
Yeah. I think going into it, we always say it's 2 points and it's just a regular season game, but in reality, it isn't. Uh, it's about the bragging rights for the rest of the season. Like we already played GBN in preseason, but that game doesn't matter. I feel like that is the game that matters, and we all look forward to that game. And it's pretty surreal having the student section, and it's not just the game; it's the week leading up to the game. I think that time of year is my favorite time. It's just hanging out. We hang out with the guys every single like day of that week. We all go and get our specialty haircuts at Andreas Hogan. It's surreal, and I think past 2 years have been first year wasn't so fun, but last year was pretty fun, and I think I've scored in both years, so I think just scoring and going to go to your student section has been amazing. But they've been some pretty weird goals, but hopefully I'll get a couple more in this year. But
So far in the early season, this is my last question. You've had some guys from last year who, put up a fair amount of points, start to really step things up. I know it's a small sample, but I think a good example is Zach Boris alongside some others. Have you seen anything in Zach's game or anybody else's that you can look and say, hey, that has really improved from the previous year or the year before that? To whereas you guys are not just riding on your shoulders now, but looking much more like a team. You said it's your line mates, but now, I mean, you're talking 1 through 4 lines, everybody chipping in at this point right now.
yeah, I think this year is kind of we've all kind of come together as one more than most years. We hang out every weekend. Talking about going to high school football games. We always get together before that. We don't really like people may go to their friend groups, but we like our team doesn't do that. We take us all in. We all hang out before the game, have fun, go together, and then go back together. And I think just hanging out with each other has been amazing, just to get like that chemistry going. But yeah, the forwards have been doing great, and I feel like Zach Morris has taken a big step. He's always been a pretty athletic kid. Um, Adding Owen Cosmeter from AAA, he's been pretty good
Oh
so
yeah.
far. Asher switching up from D, he's been great. I feel like just using them as I think they just need to come back and take some of it on their shoulder too. And I feel like most teams have kind of been hounding it in on just not letting like some of us skate it up like me or Ryan Mulvey. And I feel like when we get stopped or we get like two guys on us, they're always there to take it there and go in. And they've been pretty consistent on scoring. So I feel like as long as those guys can keep that up, we're gonna be in pretty good shape.
Yeah, well said.
All right, Blake, this will be my last question. Circling back, we talked about it earlier, hinted at it, but you, of course, committed to University of Illinois to play baseball. Obviously that's taken very seriously there. I'm just wondering if this is your last season, at least, playing at a competitive level, playing hockey, what are your biggest things that you want to take away personally, besides stats, besides, you know, all of that, just kind of, obviously when you go to U of I, it's just going to be baseball all year round. So what are your biggest things you're focusing on this year?
Um, are you talking like on the hockey side of things?
Yeah, on the hockey, like, because it might be
Yeah,
your last competitive year. I don't know what your plans are,
yeah,
but
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I want to win a state championship. That's kind of something that everyone looks forward to. But most importantly, I just want to have fun with the guys. If you'd ask anyone on our team, Philbin goes around and ask the captains if they're good and if they have to say anything. And people say like just like what they think about the games, but what I always say is just let's just have fun today and let's keep it going. So I feel like hockey is just kind of a game of fun, and if you're not having fun out there, you're not going to play well. So I feel like just having fun with the guys. I mean, we have a trip coming up to go to Cleveland in about next week, so that's gonna be pretty fun. And we always go to Jamestown every year, so I think those tournaments, especially it being my last like two away tournaments of my travel hockey career, I feel like those away tournaments just from high school and back into like my stars days and stuff like that, those have been like the highlights of my career. Um, Scoring on the ice is fun, but making those relationships with those guys that you're going to call your buddies forever after high school, I feel like is what kind of sticks out. And we do have a special group here, and we're all really buddies and close. So I feel like Jamestown is going to be amazing. I know last year was probably my highlight of the year, just going down there, going sledding with the guys and just doing random stuff. But yeah, it's always a blast to hang out with those guys, and I feel like just having fun and stuff like hanging out with the team, going to away tournaments is what I'm going to take away from this year.
well said, Blake Hoffer. Thank you so much for getting on the Scholastic sit down with us. We appreciate your time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
thank you,
you
Blake.
guys.
All right, Luke, let's take a look at a busy week number 8 of SHL hockey. There are 10 games to go over. Let's start with Tuesday, October 28th. That is the day we are filming, but we promise you we don't know the result of this game yet. It is between Lake Forest and Carmel. And Luke, I'm very intrigued to see what happens between these two teams at 8:30 p.m. tonight, as Carmel's lone win of the season came against these very Scouts on the road. Now they'll be at home.
Yeah, and it was a dominant win too. 6-3 back on October 2nd, Dylan. This is a Lake Forest team that has had a roller coaster season. They're trying not to find themselves playing back at their bottom tier up to this point. And we did this last year. I believe it was with York and St. Ignatius, and I actually got the score right. So you know what? I'm just going to go and predict the score just so I can end up on the Instagram again. Um, I do think Lake Forest will bounce back and even things up. I think the season series is still up for grabs, but I'm going to say Scouts win this one. Let's go 4-2. Feeling a low scoring one.
4-2. Well, if you're going to make a prediction, so will I. Maybe this will be my chance to get it right. And you know what? I'm going to have some fun with it. I think Carmel knows that they beat Lake Forest once. They're going to do it again. I think this one's going to be a little lower scoring as well. Let's call it 3-1.
I like it.
So that takes us into Wednesday night, two games. Again, Wednesday where both Glenbrooks are at home. GBS will be taking on St. Ignatius for the second time this season. Ignatius won the first meeting 6-3 down in Chicago. And then New Trier Green will be taking on GBN. Another rematch from earlier this season. And Luke, I think we all remember that one, a 10-5 victory for New Trier Green. Very interested to see what happens in meeting number two of three.
Yeah, Nutria Green pumped it up after that first period. I believe it was 7-1 or something in that range. And the Trevs look to do more of the same again. I know they're on the road this time. They're not playing in front of their own student section, but GBN's been off to a rough start, and I think that can change at any given moment. We've seen GBN beat New Trier in big games before. We saw them in the SHL final last year. It's an unpredictable one there. New Trier, of course, the favorite, but never know what can happen on a Wednesday night in Northbrook. Meanwhile, St. Ignatius and Glenbrook South over in Glenview. It's going to be a fun one to watch. We saw these two in Chicago back on October 5th. St. Ignatius winning 6-3. They had a couple of pretty goals in that one. Just picking the corners of Thomas Preston. That's not going to be easy to do twice. I would watch for GBS to potentially pull back into even on that season series there between what I think are two very evenly balanced teams. They both have a solid goaltender. They have a very good offensive front. So it might just be a coin flip over in Glenview.
We'll see what happens. Looking forward to it. That brings us into Thursday. Two games, including our third broadcast on the SHL network. That is between Loyola Gold and New Trier Green for their first meeting of the season. Arguably the biggest rivalry in the state of Illinois when it comes to high school hockey. And then that one's at 8:40 p.m. on Thursday night. So a late start. Another late start closes out the night as St. Viator and York do battle at Rosemont Ice Arena. Both of these teams have been playing home games here and there. York is the designated home team for this one, but just good to see Rosemont getting some SHL love. And I know, Luke, you play men's league there, so
Oh yeah, tonight, baby.
it's
Tuesday
tonight.
nights.
All
Yeah,
right,
little
Tuesday night.
10:40 p.m. puck drop. Cannot wait. It's gonna be a blast.
Wishing you the best of luck. But these two games are both, both noteworthy, but I think that Loyola New Trier game is the one everyone's waiting for.
Yeah, these are both incredible, Dylan, and I'm bummed they're not staggered times. Otherwise, if I had the chance, I'd probably visit both games. I mean, to be frankly honest with you. Um, Loyola and New Trier, it's a classic rivalry. This game's going to be aired out on the big waves. I mean, a lot of eyes are going to be on it. A lot of eyes are going to be there watching it. That's obviously the game of the week, as it always is when those two teams meet, because it's another year where they're both just good. They're both, top three potentially in this SHL. I mean, I know Loyola hasn't played a lot, but we've seen some really good performances. They're able to squeak out at some really good teams so far this season. And this will be their first meeting with New Trier. It's going to be highly anticipated and a lot of fun. On the other end, 9 p.m. in Rosemont, it's another great matchup. We've seen how good this York team can play at their ceiling. When we know how good this St. Viator team is with all the returners that they have, and Calder Turpin stepping into the role of Brock Hare and doing great. It was a great first matchup between these two teams. Viator taking it 3-2 back 18 days ago as we're recording this, and I think it'll be another neck and neck battle. What a Thursday it's going to be.
Looking forward to the SHL playoffs, which will be all hosted at Rosemont Ice Arena
It's a sweet
later
rink.
on in
Yeah.
February. So that should be pretty fun, and hopefully we'll get to do our first broadcast at that rink. No games on Halloween. Halloween is Friday, so that brings us into Saturday, November 1st, 1:50 p.m. Carmel Catholic hosting York at Glacier Ice Arena, and then later at night, St. Ignatius hosting New Trier Green at 6:50 p.m.
Yeah, York and Carmel first meeting of the season. Another one of those glacier afternoon games. They struggled in that type of scenario last time against Glenbrook South. Ended up getting throttled at home, but once again, it's a new weekend. Carmel could be rolling off some momentum of a potential win earlier in the week. Don't really know what to expect there yet. When it comes to the other game, New Trier St. Ignatius, always a game you want to keep your eyes on. Down in the city this time at Fifth Third Arena. New Trier trying to stay hot. This is already the season finale, Dylan. New Trier has won both so far, but not by much. 5-2 win against St. Ignatius. They did kind of manhandle that one, but the first one only 3-1. And what are two teams that are very statistically similar. So that's going to be a fun one as well. Good Saturday we got.
And then that brings us into Sunday. We get another triple header of hockey, starting things off at 5:30 p.m. at North Shore Ice Arena. It'll be New Trier Green taking on GBS on home ice. And then at 5:45, Lake Forest brings in Loyola Gold at Alumni Memorial Fieldhouse. And finally, St. Ignatius hosts York down at Fifth Third Arena at 6:40, and that'll close out the week.
Yeah, what really sticks out to me, Dylan, is this Loyola Lake Forest game. We've talked about how Lake Forest has beaten four of the top six teams in the standings this season. I mean, they've proven they can play really good against good teams. They've already beaten Loyola. And what tells them that they can't do it again, especially on home ice? I know there's a lot of people that are probably favoring Loyola in this game, but you might want to recheck yourself. It's going to be at least even, if not, I would maybe even think the Scouts are the potential favorites in this one. Now, granted, I'm just a human opinion. That doesn't mean I'm going to be right, but I feel pretty good about that. And Glenbrook South, New Trier, once again, two teams, very high potential. New Trier at home, and then York and St. Ignatius. I mean, these are arguably, I mean, these might be the six best with an exception in that pile. I mean, yeah, you're missing Viator, but other than that, there's some really, really good teams in here. And I don't want to say it's a top six, but you're looking at some really, really good competition on Sunday, our only three-game slate of the week.
No doubt about that, Luke. So that takes us into our selections first for what we think will be the game of the week to watch, and then, of course, the highest scoring game. Uh, you'll get the first pick for the highest scoring game, but I'm going to go ahead and take GBS and New Trier as my game of the week. I think these two teams have had a lot of close battles. New Trier swept the season series from GBS after GBS swept them the year before in 2023-24. And they met once in the preseason invitational championship game. You know, GBS is going to be looking for revenge after New Trier took that one 3-1. And New Trier, gonna come out guns a-blazing, looking to prevent that. So that's my game of the week, personally. How about you?
I mean, yeah, what a busy week it is for New Trier, and I know you're missing the obvious one, and you want me to do it. I'm more than honored to do it because this is just such an awesome game. New Trier Loyola, Thursday, October 30th. It's going to be a madhouse. Um, that's really all I can say. You got to be there, or you got to be there to watch it online. You have to. I mean, you have to.
You just have to. That's well put, Luke. So that's our game of the week. But now, a little bit different. We have to pick what we believe to be the highest scoring game of this week. And Luke, as I am host, that means you get to go first. But first, we wanted to mention that you picked Carmel Catholic and New Trier last week. That ended up being 8-1, so 9 goals. That was tied for the highest scoring game
I'll
with
take
St.
it.
Ignatius and GBN 6-3, also 9 goals. So, Luke, you get half a point, and you know what that means? We're all tied up,
We're
baby.
even. We're deadlocked.
1.5 to 1.5. And remember, that steak dinner paid for by Max Anderson is on the
Yes.
line.
Yes,
So,
confirmed. Totally.
yes.
Love it.
So, go ahead and make your pick. It's your turn to pick first.
Ooh, well, you know what? We had a good high scoring matchup between these two teams last time, nine total goals. And what tells me that these offenses can't do the same as last time? You got Glenbrook South hosting St. Ignatius Wednesday, October 29th, 7:10 p.m. I think both offenses are fairly due. I think GBS has been in some low scoring games as of late, but they're people are forgetting how deep this offense is, and they've been getting a lot of shots on. Now they got to let them fall, and almost kind of like in a basketball term, they're due. They're putting up shots. They're not going most of the time. I think that'll change in this one. I'm not saying they're going to win, but I think both offenses will clash pretty well on Wednesday. Once again, St. Ignatius and Glenbrook South. Dylan, your turn.
Well, Luke, when you started off that, you mentioned how these two teams had a high scoring game earlier this season. I thought you were going to take my pick. Give me New Trier Green and Glenbrook North to
It's
do
a
it
safe
again.
one. Yeah.
15 goals last time. Obviously, every game is different from game to game, but look, that's one of the highest scoring SHL games of all time. How can I
Yeah.
not ride with the hot hand there? So that's my pick for the highest scoring game of the week. We'll see what happens, and we'll see if either of us break the tie. And I will say, Luke, we're on a nice streak of, at the very least, picking what ends up being tied as the highest scoring game of the week. We haven't had a stagnant week in a while where neither of us gotten any points. So 1.5,
Yeah,
1.5, we'll see. Lots of season left.
absolutely.
So that's just about going to finish our episode. We do want to mention, you may have noticed, we have not been doing question of the week and trivia as of late. So we are, as for now, abandoning that segment and replacing it with a Q&A. So if you want us to answer any of your questions on the next episode of the podcast, leave those questions in the comment section of this video. We're also going to post on the Instagram, if you don't follow us at SHL Network, we're very active on there, posting almost every day. And yeah, I mean, it was a fun run, but I think it would be a little more interesting if you got to engage with us a little bit more creatively by asking whatever you wanted to ask.
Yeah, basically we're like a teacher making your homework easier. Instead of you typing the long answers, we'll speak out the long answers. Give us a short question, open-ended one, or a yes and no. Really could care less. But yeah, I'd be willing to have that type of thing added, and I think it'll actually work out a lot better. But we need you guys to cooperate on your end, not to be like a sorry coach. But I mean, we got to work on it a little bit. Something we got to fix in our game for sure.
I'll tell you what, Luke, we made this promise a couple of times, and I haven't talked to you beforehand, so I'm just going to say on behalf of you, whether you like it or not, if we get 15 comments on this video, and yes, we will be
From 15 different
from
people. I
15
don't want
different
one of my
people,
friends coming and commenting 15 times.
and it has to be an actual question. It can't just be like the letter F or something.
Favorite color.
Yeah, if that's your question, that's fine. It has to be a question though. If we get 15, we will do the next episode in a suit and tie. What do you think, Luke?
Well, I mean, a man of my word, I guess now a man of Dylan's where I'll do it, I guess. I got
Yeah,
no problem
well,
with it.
all right, 15. I highly doubt we're gonna get 15, but I like to stay confident.
Yeah, why
Let's
not?
see if you guys can do it. And again, we're gonna shoot that out on the SHL Network Instagram, so maybe we'll get our 15 comment goal. So that'll do it for episode number 8 of the Scholastic Sit Down, our last episode in the month of October. And Luke, this season is really flying by, but at the same time, so much left to be played.
Yeah, November smacks you across the face. You got a ton of league games. Then you got the O'Grady tournament. I mean, a lot
SHL
to look
Showcase
forward
as
to.
well.
Yeah, the showcase the weekend before that. It's packing up, and if you're not really in the rhythm with hockey yet, I think you check back with me in a month and you'll nod your head in agreement. I think we're all dialed in now.
Yeah, you said it, Luke. That's Luke Jordan. I'm Dylan Ward. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time right here on the Scholastic Sit Down.